Rabbi Joseph B. Soloveitchik, the Rav Zatzal, taught that every single parsha has a theme. And not only that, every Shabbos has a theme. If it's Shabbos Korach, the theme is Korach. And we're supposed to learn something that Shabbos. And our neshama is supposed to develop in a new way that Shabbos. But how do we learn from the story of Korach? Korach is the prototypical Rasha. Korach is as bad as you get, as low as you can go, literally, in the earth. Korach is so bad that the world itself had to change itself to create a new bria, a new creation, to swallow up this wicked man and everything he possessed. What could we possibly learn from a Rasha, from a wicked man like Korach? But in the Pirkei Avot, we learn from the Taihar Beili, a man who lived in the Galilee, that what? Harchek mishachin ra. Stay far away from a bad neighbor. And this could be understood in the following manner. The wicked person, the wicked neighbor, is also a teacher, inasmuch as my actions and my location is defined in a mirror image to that of the Rasha. If the Rasha is over there, I want to be over here. If the Rasha lifts his hand, I want to put my hand down. The Rasha tells us the path not to go on, the path best not taken. In that sense, the Parsha of Korach has many lessons to teach us. What can we learn from Parshat Korach? What are the lessons of this Shabbos? I think we can discern that Korach made errors in many realms, and three realms in particular. In the realm of his understanding of leadership and what leadership is all about. Number two, in the realm of the psychological, his own psychological makeup and well-being was flawed. And in the philosophical realm, he made many crucial and key errors. Let us identify what those errors are, and with that we'll learn l'harchik mi shachin ra, to stay away from the path of this evil man. Number one, he violated the Gemara in Brachos. The Gemara in Brachos says when it comes to srara, when it comes to any sort of leadership in the Jewish community, from simply yored lifnei teva, going up to daven for the Amud, to lead the services, do any sort of leadership position, tzarich l'sarev, you must refuse. Jeremiah refused, Yirmiyah the prophet, Moshe refused. The role of a leader is at first to refuse the leadership role. The Gemara in Brachos, Daf Lamed Aleph Amud Aleph, 34a, says that if you don't refuse, it's like a dish that has not enough salt. If too much salt is also not good, too much refusing. What should you do? The first time you should refuse leadership, as Moshe did. Shniya mehavhev. The second time, well, maybe I will, maybe I won't. Shlishit poshet raglav v'yored. The third time you're asked, lift up your feet and you go. In the words of the Jerusalem Talmud, you run. The third time, you run to do the job. Korach didn't appreciate this. Korach was seeking the leadership. If someone's seeking leadership, then you have to wonder if it's really l'shem shamayim, if it's really for the sake of heaven, or if he's just seeking leadership for leadership's sake. The first error of Korach was that he sought the leadership, and a real leader never seeks leadership. We seek him. Number two, the very first words of the Parsha, intriguing, strange words, Vayikach Korach, and Korach took. What did he take? There's no object to that verb, because Korach, his whole essence was about taking. What could he get out of leading the Jews? He wanted something for it. And what is true leadership is the exact opposite, where it's all about giving. So much so that Moshe Rabbeinu complained 2 weeks ago in Parshat Ba'alotecha, and he said, Kasher Yisau min tayonik, God, Ribono Shel Olam, do you expect me to carry the Jewish people like a nursing father. A nurse carries his baby 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, where the total sustenance and nourishment of the baby is totally dependent on me. Is that what you expect? And Rabbi Joseph B. Soloveitchik, in an essay on leadership, says, indeed, that is what is expected. A leader is expected to have not only the fatherly aspect, teacher, Moshe the teacher, but Moshe the social worker, Moshe the homeroom teacher, and yes, Moshe the father, Moshe the mother. Leadership is not about taking Vayikach, the first word of our parsha. Leadership is about giving. And then, thirdly, Korach failed to appreciate that real leadership can be behind the scenes. If he wanted to be a leader, indeed, some people are cut out to be leaders, but there's a lot of leadership to be had behind the limelight, away from the limelight. Where do we see true leadership in our parsha? We see it from no one other than the wife of On ben Pelet. There's a mystery in our parsha. At the outset it says that On ben Pelet was one of the great leaders of the rebellion against Moshe. And then he disappears, nowhere to be found. Says the Midrash, his wife turned to him and said, "Are you kidding? You want to join up with Korach? You think Korach wants something for the equality of the Jewish people? He wants to be leader, and then you will be second fiddle again." And therefore, On ben Pelet backed out. His wife showed that leadership. With that leadership, the rebellion had a different tone. On ben Pelet was missing. You can influence people beyond the stage, beyond the great bama, the great stage of leadership with a capital L. There are other ways to show leadership other than taking over from Moshe Rabbeinu. Finally, the Chidushei Harim makes a fascinating point which one could interpret to be a purely Hasidic notion, but perhaps has broader implications for all of us as well. And he says as follows. He says, he didn't lo hirgish shekol ze al yedei Moshe Rabbeinu. Yes, Korach, you're a great man. You're one of the Gedolei Ador, one of the greatest individuals of that generation. That's what you should have been, you could have been, you were before your rebellion. But you think that without the others, without the whole system, without a Moshe Rabbeinu at the top, that you'd still be where you are today. But sometimes we don't realize that where we are today is due to those others around us. Some might imagine in their dreams that if they could push aside those above them, everything would be great and they would have the limelight of the day. But actually, it's through these others that we sometimes try to push away in our race to the top. Those others are part of that support system that make you who you are. And that was part of Korach's grave error. A thought from the early Ger Rebbe, the Chidushei Harim. These were his errors in the realm of leadership. And it is our job to harchek mishachin ra, to go away from these ideas, to understand that we don't seek leadership, but great leaders are sought after. We're not there to take. Leadership is about giving. Real leadership doesn't have to be in the front lines, but can be behind the scenes. And finally, the great leaders who may seem like they're in the way, that we want to somehow replace them, it is through their greatness that we down below in the chain of leadership are what we are due to the leaders that we already have.